What if I told you that out of the family that sang their way into 100 million hearts, not everyone made it to see this video get made? The Sound of Music was never just a movie about pretty songs and Austrian hills. It was a story about a family running from war, holding on to each other with nothing but music and hope, hiding in plain sight while the world around them fell apart. And by the time we get through this whole list, you'll find out that some of these faces are gone forever, and one of them walked away from Hollywood completely and built a life you would never expect. Stick around, because number 5 on this list might be the hardest one to hear. Number 1, we have the woman who made an entire generation believe a governess could fix a broken family with nothing but a guitar and a song. She is still alive today, but she has quietly stepped back from the screen almost completely. This is Julie Andrews, and she was only 29 years old when she played Maria. Andrews built the rest of her life around music, books, and voice work, and as of 2026, she is 90 years old. Maria still feels timeless because Andrews gave her more than a bright voice, she gave her courage. And that is exactly why, 6 decades later, you still know every word to every song she sang. Number 2, we have a woman who could have been the villain of this story, but instead she made you feel sorry for her. She was already one of Hollywood's most respected actresses, with Oscar nominations to her name, long before this role ever came along. This is Eleanor Parker, who was 42 when she played the Baroness. Parker kept working across film and television for years after this movie, still admired, still respected, but in 2013 she passed away at 91, from complications of pneumonia. The Baroness could have been easy to hate, but Parker made her human, proud, and quietly wounded, and that is why losing love in this story still stings. Number 3, we have the man who stole every scene he was in without ever raising his voice. He carried a fussy, dry-witted charm through decades of stage, film, and television, and he made selfishness look strangely lovable. This is Richard Haydn, who was 60 years old when he played Max Detweiler. Haydn kept working steadily for years, that same oddball timing following him from role to role, until he passed away in 1985 at 80. Haydn made Max funny, practical, and human, the kind of man who could sell out his friends and still make you laugh while he did it. Number 4, we have the woman who gave this story its most powerful voice of courage, and it earned her one of the biggest honors of her career. She spent decades on stage and screen before this role ever found her. This is Peggy Wood, who was 73 when she played Mother Abbess. That performance brought her an Academy Award nomination and a Golden Globe nomination in the same year, the kind of recognition most actresses chase their whole careers, but in 1978 she died at 86 after a cerebral hemorrhage. Wood made Mother Abbess gentle but firm, someone who could see Maria's fear clearly and push her toward the life waiting outside anyway. Number 5, and I told you this one would be hard. She played the eldest daughter with so much innocence that an entire generation fell in love with her 16 going on 17 moment. She later walked away from acting completely and built a quiet life far from the cameras. This is Charmian Carr, who was only 21 when she played Liesl von Trapp. You watched her grow up on screen in real time, and for decades she stayed warmly remembered by classic movie fans everywhere. But in 2016, Carr passed away at 73 from frontotemporal dementia, a disease that slowly took away the very memories fans held on to her for. Liesl's first taste of growing up still feels sweet, but now it feels heavier too. If these stories are hitting you the way they're hitting us, do us a favor and hit subscribe, because we drop new stories like this every 2 days, and you will not want to miss what's coming. Number 6, we have the girl who brought pure mischief to a house full of discipline. She spent years working in film and television before quietly devoting her life to family and charity work instead. This is Heather Menzies, who was 15 when she played Louisa von Trapp. Menzies stepped mostly out of the spotlight by choice, choosing a life that mattered more to her than fame. But in 2017 she died at 68 after a battle with brain cancer. Menzies gave Louisa that cheeky middle child energy, adding just enough trouble to keep the Von Trapp house from ever feeling too perfect. Number 7, we have a boy who grew up to play one of the most iconic superheroes in television history, and it has nothing to do with singing. He carried a quiet, respectful presence as the oldest son in a house run by strict discipline. This is Nicholas Hammond, who was 15 when he played Friedrich von Trapp. Hammond kept acting for years afterward and eventually became known to a whole new generation as Peter Parker in The Amazing Spider-Man, and as of 2026 he is 76 years old and still connected to the industry. Friedrich was never loud or showy, but Hammond made him feel sincere, a boy quietly learning how to become part of the music again. Number 8, we have the biggest curveball on this entire list, and you are not ready for it. This cast member did not chase more fame after this film, he chased rocks and computers instead. This is Duane Chase, who was 14 when he played Kurt von Trapp. Chase left acting behind entirely and built a completely different life in geology and computer work, and as of 2026, he is 75 years old, living about as far from Hollywood as you can get. Chase gave Kurt a bright, cheeky little spark on screen, and then walked away from all of it to become someone almost nobody would recognize. 61 years have passed since this family first sang together on screen, and somehow, some of these actors are still out there living lives you would never guess came from a movie musical. Number 9, we have the smallest, shyest smile in the whole Von Trapp family, and she grew up to work with flowers instead of film. This is Debbie Turner, who was only 9 years old when she played Marta Von Trapp. Turner stepped away from acting and quietly built a life in design and floral business, and as of 2026, she is 70 years old. Turner made Marta soft, cute, and impossible to forget, especially in the moments when the family finally starts opening up through music. Number 10, we have the youngest face in the entire cast, the one who made the family feel instantly warmer just by being in the room. She kept acting for a while after this film, then chose a much more private life focused on advocacy work. This is Kym Karath, who was just 6 years old when she played Gretel Von Trapp. As of 2026, Karath is 68 years old and rarely steps into the public eye anymore. Karath brought real childlike wonder to Gretel, the kind of innocence that made the family's escape at the end of this story feel even more emotional. If you have a favorite Von Trapp kid, drop their name in the comments because we want to know who stuck with you the most all these years later. Number 11, we have a woman who gave the Abbey its warmth long before she became a familiar face in daytime television. She built a long career across British and American film before this role ever crossed her path. This is Anna Lee, who was 52 when she played Sister Margrethe. Lee went on to become beloved by daytime viewers on General Hospital for years afterward, but in 2004, she passed away at 91 after a battle with pneumonia. Lee made Sister Margrethe soft-spoken and quietly amused, like someone who understood Maria's wild heart better than anyone else in that abbey. Number 12, we have the sharpest, sternest presence in the entire abbey, and off-screen she was actually a singer and songwriter with a whole creative life of her own. She moved easily between stage, screen, and cabaret for decades. This is Portia Nelson, who was 45 when she played Sister Berthe. Nelson kept creating for years after this film, but in 2001 she died at 80 after a battle with cancer. Nelson gave Sister Berthe just enough comic friction, stern without ever turning cold, someone who believed discipline mattered even while Maria's heart was clearly somewhere else. Number 13, we have a man whose entire job was to make you feel cold just by walking into a room, and he barely needed to say a word to do it. He worked steadily across radio, film, television, and voice acting for years. This is Ben Wright, who was 50 when he played Herr Zeller. Wright later became familiar to Disney fans through several animated classics, giving warmth to characters everywhere except this one, and in 1989 he died at 74 after a heart attack. Wright gave Herr Zeller no warmth at all, and that controlled menace is exactly what reminded audiences that real danger was closing in behind all that music. Number 14, we have the boy who broke a young girl's heart on screen, and he is still out there performing to this day. He brought youthful charm at first, then turned into someone colder as the story darkened around him. This is Daniel Truhitt, who was 21 when he played Rolf. Truhitt kept performing in music and theater long after his early fame, and as of 2026, he is 83 years old, still remembered for playing one of the story's most painful betrayals. Truhitt made Rolf sweet in the beginning and distant by the end, turning first love into heartbreak. Number 15, we have a woman who never got a big musical moment, but she made the whole household feel real anyway. She built a long career playing refined ladies, housekeepers, and society women across British and American film. This is Norma Varden, who was 67 when she played Frau Schmidt. Varden kept working steadily in that same quiet, dependable way for years, but in 1989 she died at 90 from heart failure. Varden made Frau Schmidt calm, observant, and practical, the steady presence in a family about to face impossible choices. You have made it this far, so go ahead and share this with someone who grew up loving this movie because they are going to want to see this list too. Number 16, we have a woman whose voice you have heard in some of the biggest movie musicals of all time, and you probably never even knew her name. She was famous for lending her singing voice to other Hollywood stars when the cameras weren't looking. This is Marni Nixon, who was 35 when she played Sister Sophia. Nixon was the hidden voice behind stars in West Side Story, My Fair Lady, and The King and I, one of the most quietly powerful careers in movie musical history, and in 2016 she died at 86 after a battle with breast cancer. Nixon's role here was small, but her voice shaped the sound of classic Hollywood itself. Number 17, we have the sharp-eyed kid who noticed more than the adults ever expected her to. She kept acting into adulthood, then moved into photography and art instead. This is Angela Cartwright, who was 12 when she played Brigitte von Trapp. As of 2026, Cartwright is 73 years old and still creating art to this day. Cartwright gave Brigitte a little bite beneath the sweetness, honest and curious, adding real personality to the children's perfect harmonies. Number 18. Our final name on this list is the man whose cold exterior slowly cracked open in front of your eyes, and it took him decades to finally get the recognition he deserved. He carried a remarkable career across stage and film for most of his life. This is Christopher Plummer, who was 35 when he played Captain George von Trapp. Plummer eventually won the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor for Beginners, more than 40 years after this film first came out, proof that some careers take a lifetime to fully bloom. But in 2021, he died at 91 after complications from a fall. Plummer let audiences watch a man slowly learn how to love his children again, and it took him until his 90s to finally take home the award that this performance always deserved. 61 years after this family first sang together in the Austrian hills, half of them are gone, and the other half are still out there quietly living lives most of us will never see, which means the family you fell in love with never really left. It just grew up somewhere you weren't watching. If this brought back memories, hit subscribe so you don't miss the next one, and tell us in the comments which cast member's story hit you the hardest.